Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we explore entertaining and enlightening discussions of the adventure of life and all things good. From science and technology to history and philosophy to leadership and success. We hope to give you a better understanding of the world and skills for everyone to pursue their own adventure.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we talk about all things good and the pursuit of the adventure of life. I'm Rafe, and you know what's coming. It's going to be a great show tonight because that's the kinds of things that we do. With me is Harry. Harry, how are you?
Rafe, I'm doing great. I'm here. It's just about sundown. It's probably not sundown for you quite yet, even though we're in the same time zone, but that's other discussions.
That's been a number of episodes. I'm still working on getting Windows to agree to my Rafe standard time, which would be 5 hours.
I'm sure that'll be just a smashing hit among all the Rafes in the world.
Yes, that's right. I think I may run for local political office on the just on the platform that the city of Westfield sets up Westfield Standard Time, and we say enough. All Westfield public meetings and like the school day and all that is set on Westfield Standard Time, and we'll just have that. We'll institute it, and everybody know it's 5 hours and 45 minutes off of GMT.
That sounds. Good luck.
Yeah,
Let me know if you get a vote or two.
Yeah, if I get a vote, I can't even get your mom to agree to that. All right, so hey. Thanks to our listeners. We appreciate you being here. We are literally talking to the walls without you, and we really do appreciate you. We are a global top 10% podcast because of you. If you need to contact us, get to us at bufnagle@bufnagle.com. If you're new to the podcast, hey, thanks for coming. We appreciate having you here. We are glad that you've decided to join the Buff team. Give us 4 episodes or more and see if we don't give you a reason to come back for like maybe 100 more after that. So we're talking about a lot of different things, and surely something will resonate with you. Remember, tell a friend to listen, and you will get a free episode. And then somewhere on that podcast app, on whatever you're listening on, is a little subscribe thing and like a 5-star thing, and say something nice about the Buff clickbait thing on there somewhere. Click that, do that, and you will make, it's a, Harry, I think that's a corporal work of mercy, isn't it?
That's what we really need here.
Giving the Buff a good review. No, that helps us out, and that would be a good thing for you to do. And that would be that'd be great because we get brownies, cookies, and pudding when that sort of thing happens.
All those things are great, but I think what's even better than cookies and brownies is smoothies, right? Everybody loves a good smoothie.
Absolutely.
And I've got just the perfect blender if you're looking for one. It's the BlendJet 2. It's portable, so you can blend up a smoothie at work, protein shake at the gym, or even a margarita on the beach. And it's small enough to fit in a cup holder and powerful enough to blast through tough ingredients like ice and frozen fruit with ease. BlendJet 2 is whisper quiet, so you can make your morning smoothie without waking up the whole house. And it lasts for 15 plus blends and recharges quickly via USB-C. And best of all, the BlendJet 2 cleans itself. Just add a drop of soap in with some water, and you're good to go.
And I bet you're going to tell me it comes in like 30 different colors and patterns.
Tons of different colors. So you can be your regular Roy G. Biv guy. You can be a camel guy, black, white. They have sparkles. They've got it all.
They have everything. So the real question, Harry, at this point is, what are you waiting for? Go to the blendjet.com link in our description for this podcast and grab yours today. Be sure to use the promo code BUFNAGLE to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. No other portable blender on the market comes close to the quality, power, and innovation of BlendJet 2. They guarantee you will love it or your money back. Blend anytime, anywhere with BlendJet 2 portable blender. Go to the blendjet.com link in our description and use the code BUFNAGLE to get 12% off of your order and free 2-day shipping. Shop today and get the best deal ever. All right, so
I like it.
All right, there you go. All right, so where are we? What are we doing tonight? I'm finding here. I have too many open windows. Wait a minute. Where did
Well,
what?
we're pretty much
Oh, here
talking
it is.
about one of your lifelong passions, even
Yes,
though it may not have started out as such, just kind of developed into that, is woodworking,
is
right?
woodworking. Well, and it's wood and it's building. Like it's the focus today is on wood and woodworking because we've had some requests to, hey, can you tell us more about that? And so it's kind of hard to know exactly, Harry, tell us about life. So what are we going to talk about woodworking? So I let me tell you some things that I've learned and picked up over the last however many years I've been doing things doing things with wood other than burning it, or
Sure.
sitting in a chair on it. Okay, um, so we've had some questions. Tell us about woodworking and wood, and so here we go. So I have been as long as I can remember working with wood. Yeah, I think officially, my dad had a little workshop in the basement, and he had a big radial arm saw that was very scary and dangerous, which made it very thrilling. And but we did in shop class in middle school. We had, I bet in sixth grade we had woodworking. So
Hmm.
did you do that in middle
No,
school? You
of
didn't
course
have
not.
you no, okay. So well we did that
We
and
had typing class.
well I took typing in ninth grade. So we had woodworking there and that was a lot of fun. We had we used coping saws, sandpaper and stain and varnish and that sort of thing. Like I said, I saw my dad doing things in the basement in the workshop and he had I loved that smell of sawdust. It was great. And um, sawdust that like from oak is a particular favorite of mine. I built some towel racks when I was in high school down there. We had I put towel racks in all the bathrooms in the new house in 1980 that I made in the workshop, which was kind of a fun thing. I doubt that they're still there, seeing as that house has been sold numerous times since then. But I always loved watching houses get built and walking around. My favorite time of a house being built is when the roof is on and the studs are up and the pipes and stuff are in the wall, but there's nothing else up, so you can see all the stuff that's going on inside
It's like
there. And
looking inside of a person without any skin.
that's that's exactly what it's right. It's like a house anatomy, right? So
Yeah.
that's a thing that I love walking around in there, and there's sawdust on the ground, and it smells like wood,
There's a
and
Mountain Dew bottle sitting in the corner.
yeah. Well, see, that's the thing is when you're like if you're one of our house builder friends, hey, thank you, more power to you, but you know what? Don't hide what are they called? Tobacco spit cups in the wall. That's I've seen that too many times. That's just all right. Clean up after you're done. So anyway, we took shop in middle school, but we didn't have it in high school. Someone decided at the school board level, I guess, that if you were college bound, then you didn't need to take shop. And I'm like, that was like the dumbest thing they could have done back then. I think they should have made us take shop. I think that should have been a requirement for everybody so that we didn't turn into like, well, I don't know how to jumpstart a car because I went to college. I mean, that's basically what they're saying. We're not going to teach you
You're too
these things.
focused on your math and your figures.
Yes, right. I can tell you. I can tell you about electrons flowing through those wires, but I don't know which wires. Okay, so that would be a bad thing. So take shop, take calculus, take them all, learn everything. That's my motto. So the new house here, as you know, Harry, you've seen it last week when you were here, has a dedicated workshop, and this is something I worked on for quite a while. I had one 2 houses ago, which was very big and very wonderful, but I didn't get as much time as I have now. The last house we were in had a one car garage, an extra, like they called it a carriage garage, just a little thing on the side of the house, and it was like 12 feet by 20, so that's what 240 square feet,
Hmm.
right? And the new shop is closer to 30 by 24 or so, so it's a deep garage, and it is 2.5 bays wide, and
720 square feet.
yet something like, is that what it is? Holy cow, look at
Yeah,
this.
10 times
Yeah,
24 times 3.
see, look at that. That's
See, and
why.
that's why I went to college and didn't take shop.
So you can do the math. So you tell me how big my shop is. All right, so it's 2 bays it's got it's 2.5 bays and it has high windows around the outside, so there's a lot of light, and it's got really tall ceilings because that it sits at the ground level where the garage is and take a couple steps up into the house. So it's at least 12 feet tall. The ceilings are maybe 14. It's wonderful. You can store all sorts of stuff vertically that I couldn't do before. It's got lots of light. It has a small HVAC unit just for that area, which is great. So I don't have to pipe sawdust and toxic fumes
I'm sure mom would love
into the rest of the house, right? So that,
that.
oh, and has lots of circuits and a sink in the shop,
Yes.
and I used that today when I was um, cleaning up some glue squeeze out.
Oh, well, all right.
Yeah, so that's very exciting. So I think might have been you who told me that if somebody said that if aliens ever came to the planet to take our resources, the thing they would want more than anything else are our trees. Was that you who said that?
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I
Think about
believe
it.
that.
Diamond's got to be unbelievably abundant. It's just
Uh,
squished carbon
across the galaxy, right?
across the universe. Yeah.
And
Where else are you gonna?
what else can you do with diamonds? I mean, you can grind other stuff up with diamonds. I mean, it's really good because
Sure,
they're
it's really
hard.
sharp, right? And you can
Right. Right.
cut
And
things. We use diamond tipped saw blades for your wood.
yes, you do. Well, for not for I don't use for wood. I use for concrete.
Sure.
Yeah. Right. But you're right. I mean, diamonds are great because they're hard and you can make really sharp things with them. But other than that, what do you can't. Maybe you can make. Can you make a laser with?
Yeah, you shine some light
Okay.
through it.
All right. So,
Yeah.
but I think if you're doing intergalactic transport, you don't need more diamonds. You need wood, right?
Yep.
It is such an awesome resource. It provides, well, first of all, it provides shade for us and like a place to hide from the grizzly. Well, grizzly climb trees?
Yeah, they can. Good try.
Okay, so it keeps well. If you're running around on the savannah, you can probably climb a tree, and that'll give you an extra couple seconds before some other tree climbing predator gets you. All right, but they provide shade. You can use wood for housing and construction. It is a fuel. You can make weapons with it. It is like what a wonderful thing is the tree. All right, what's the poem? I think that I shall never see a poem as lovely as the tree. Have you ever heard that? Did,
Oh, I mean, you've said it to me multiple times.
I've said that, but they don't teach that one in school anymore. We don't teach shop. We don't teach trees. Um, so and it comes in all sorts of varieties. Some of it's really hard, some of it's really soft. It's flexible, but it's strong. Uh, and it pretty much, here's the other thing, is it pretty much lasts forever if you can keep it dry and away from the microbes. It's a
Sure.
miraculous substance, and it quite literally grows on trees. Right? It floats. It's a wonderful thing. In episode 95, which I think we recorded probably about a year ago, I talked about how this planet seems to be made, especially just for us humans,
Yep.
and wood is a big part of that. Wood's a big part of that. So, all right. So I made a list of some things that are important to know about wood and woodworking, and I'm going to go through this list, and hopefully we'll get most of these things. And this is a big list, but it talks about. Well, let's just get going. Okay. So,
Yeah.
um, okay. So what's there? So it's not just getting a saw and a drill and some glue and making things, because if you're not careful, you will. I mean, you can make, like when we were kids, we made steps on the side of the tree with some old
Yes.
boards and some nails and a hammer,
Yeah, I did the same thing.
right? But it turns out that if you do such a thing as that, and you come back several years later, you will find, first of all, if those little board steps you nailed to the tree haven't rotted, they will actually get pushed off the tree by the tree because it grows out. The tree grows out, right?
Hmm.
Every year it adds a new ring, and it will push that wood right off the side. We had a tree house. Do you remember this? The tree house at the house in Brentwood that was screwed into that tree with gigantic 3-inch cabinet screws. And after about 4 years there, or maybe 5, the tree just pushed the treehouse right off the screw. And I came out one morning and the treehouse was on the ground. It just got pushed right off the tree. And now there's a nail in the tree. And I
Yep.
apologize to whoever's going to try to harvest that thing. There's that big screw is in there. So wood is this stuff. It's this cellular stuff that is laid down by the tree as it grows. Okay, and the only part of the tree that's actually alive is the outer bit right underneath the bark. And I think there's a name for that, some kind of like.
Yeah, and I know you brought this up to me all the time when I was younger. It's like, you can hack away at a specific spot in the tree, it'll be okay, but never take a young tree and ring it,
Right,
right? Like never cut around it because it'll kill the entire tree right off the bat.
right, because what sits right underneath the bark are is the circulatory system of the tree. And you're like, the tree is a circulatory system? Yeah, it does. If you've ever tapped for maple syrup,
Mm-hmm.
you tap into the circulatory system. And there's two components of the circulatory system, which we all learn in like ninth grade biology. Did you learn this about xylem and phloem? Did you ever learn
I'm
that?
sure it was in a textbook that I read.
Okay, that's good enough. That's good enough for passing the AP exam, I think.
Yeah.
But xylem and phloem. Xylem carries water from the roots up, or the roots. Do you say roots or roots?
It's interchangeable depending on if I'm talking to somebody
Okay.
from the Midwest.
Yeah, so it takes it from the roots up to the leaves. That's so xylem takes the water and any dissolved minerals from the ground up, and then the leaves produce all the food, and they send it down to the rest of the tree through the phloem. So the xylem and phloem are these two different tubes, and these channels, right? So they get laid down every year, and then a new layer gets laid out on top of it. And what you do is you get rings in the tree. So
Yep.
if you cut the tree across, like you're cutting it down, you will see the rings, and you can count the rings and determine how old the tree was. But if you cut it vertically, if you cut it from top to bottom, like we typically do when we mill a tree to make boards, you will see long streaks of what's called grain, and those essentially that's those patterns that are laid out by those xylems and phloems, um, that live in the heartwood of the tree that's already dead. But that grain is really, really important. And typically what we do is we cut boards so that they are long. Well, trees are tall and skinny, right? So
Yep.
you cut boards. If you want long, skinny boards, you cut them in the same direction as the tree grew. And the grain then runs up and down that board.
So you're
Now,
running with the grain.
with the grain. Okay, so you cut those things out. And what matters here with all that is a tree, like, since that is an organic, that's organic stuff. It's not iron, it's not granite, it's not plastic, it's wood. And the thing about wood, that the first thing you got to recognize is that when the humidity and the temperature change, the board changes its size. And this is the first thing about woodworking that you really need to know, is that your board is not the same size today as it was yesterday, and it's not going to be the same size tomorrow. So you're trying to great. How could that not be a problem?
Anywhere? Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, so but what's interesting is it will change the board if you cut it long ways with the grain. The board will not get any longer, but it will get wider and narrower. Right? So it's not going to shrink in length. It's going to shrink. It's not going to shrink or grow in length. It's going to shrink or grow in width.
Yep.
Okay, and that's an important thing, right? And the other thing is that, if you have that board like that with the grain running, let's say it's running from top to bottom, and you have the board vertical, it's very easy to split that board in that direction into two other long skinny boards.
Yeah.
Right? It's easy to split along the grain, but it's really difficult to split across the grain. Right? So, and that's like if you are, Johnny Junior Karate guy, all right, you're trying to break a board, you get a nice softwood like pine, and you get a board that's, I don't know, about a foot wide and maybe a foot long, and you have your instructor hold it very stiff, and you kick right in the middle of it. But if he holds that so that the grain pattern is horizontal and he's holding it at the top and the bottom, it will be a lot easier to split than if he decides to screw you over and turn the grain direction vertical. Or you won't be able to break that because it's hard to break across the grain, but it's easy to break with the grain. So
Yep.
all that matters when you're trying to build something like furniture. Okay, so if you're going to build like this, if you're going to, like, right next to me, Harry, is a cabinet that my father built about 1975.
Okay.
Give or take, it's 50 years old, and it has some boards running horizontal and has some boards running vertical. And since they are in opposite directions, the grain is running in opposite directions. And it's going to matter. Like, those boards are going to expand and contract in different ways. And you have to account for that in what you're building. So if you're going to build, say, let's say you're going to build a big table for Christmas dinner.
Okay.
All right. So it has to hold like 12 people, and it has to have legs on it, but you can't like put a leg every foot across underneath there because people have to sit there and put their knees underneath, right? And then you also have to have it be able to expand and contract. So when company's not there and it's just you and your little family, you can shrink it back down to a normal size table. So you're going to build an extension table, a table that slides out. Right. So what you're going to do is you're going to build legs, and you're going to support the weight of this thing on the legs, and you're going to run what's called an apron between the legs to hold the legs together, and that's going to be a long skinny board that runs horizontally, and then you're going to put flat boards on top of that. Now, if you do that, the legs themselves, like the amount of movement in wood is proportional to the amount of wood that there is in that direction. So if you have a little 1-inch board, it's not going to move. It can't move very much because it's only 1 inch wide.
Yeah.
But if that same board is like, if you take a bunch of boards and make it like 40 inches wide, like you might on a tabletop, then that thing is going to slide back and forth, and it's going to grow and shrink in size a lot. In fact, if you lay down a hardwood floor and you lay the right, you're going to have expansion and contraction of this wood, and there's something you have to take into account. So these are things that you have to take into account working with wood, and that's where you start seeing people make mistakes. If you take a tabletop and you just bolt that tabletop that's maybe 40 inches wide, you glue those pieces together and you just bolt it down to the apron, and you come back later, one of two things is going to happen. It's
It's going to warp up or down, right?
It's going to either warp up or down as it tries to expand and it runs out of room, so it either bows up or bows down. Up. Or if you happen to build it when it was very humid, and now it's the middle of winter and it's not very humid, it's going to try to contract. And if it can't contract,
will it crack?
It will crack. And you see that a lot. You see somebody who built a table. They secured it down nice and tight because they figured I need it nice and tight because it's a table. It's got to hold up, a big turkey and all the fixings, right? And so they secure it, and then what happens is the air dries out and it cracks open, and that's a bad thing. So a big part of this whole thing is dealing with the intricacies of these woods, and different woods expand and contract at different rates, and it can all get very complicated, but that's why they have YouTube, right? And so you go there and you watch people make very complicated things with wood. Now, plywood, you've heard of plywood?
Yep.
A ply is a really thin, like, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch thick or less. They take these trees and put them on a giant spindle, and they have this gigantic, I'm not making this up, it sounds like a joke, and they take this gigantic knife and then they spin the tree and
they just like shave off just a
little bit. Just building that machine to me is remarkable, and the fact of what it does is even more remarkable. So you get these really thin layers of wood, and then you lay them, each opposing ply you lay in a perpendicular direction to the previous one. So it can't, and then you glue them together, okay? So then it can't expand and contract, because when it tries to, it runs up, it's pulling against its neighbors who are not expanding and contracting in the same direction, and you get very stable pieces. The problem with plywood is it's just not very good looking, right? And that's, so you can have a very nice, pretty veneer on the outside of the plywood, but you have to be careful that you don't sand it down, and the edge of the plywood looks bad, so you have to put something on that. Right? So there's, every time you think you solve a problem, it's a whack-a-mole game. It's a game of whack-a-mole. One thing pops up, another. Okay. So, all right, some other things. All right, other things about wood. There are soft woods like pines and firs, and there's hardwoods like oaks and maples, ash. There's a wood called ironwood, Harry.
It's probably pretty hard, isn't it?
Bingo! It is really, really hard. Hickory is really hard. So some of them are really hard, and they're great for making warships.
Yeah.
So if you get captured by the Greeks and they say we need a tree to build a warship, or if you're building gigantic roof trusses for Notre Dame, maybe something like that, you want a really hard wood.
Right? But if you're out of pine, right?
Right, but you can build houses out of pine, and the reason is because you like wood is really strong against a compression force on its end. Okay, so if you think about all the studs in your house they're all vertical and they're 16 inches apart, they're just supporting weight pretty much straight down on that board, right? And that board measured in that direction is 8 feet thick. So that's a big board. right? But all the focus, all the direction is down. But if you're building a header, like to support a long beam, right? You need to have, you can't just put a flat board on there. You have to have a really, really wide board. Right? And what you do is you take a skinny board and you lay it on its edge. The grain runs the long way and it's really strong. If you would try to build a header with the grain going up and down, you would just walk out a couple inches on that and it would snap. You can break wood very easily with
Along the grain.
Along the grain. So that's the thing. But everybody who builds things knows this stuff. Okay, so here's some other things. I see a lot of people, like something's too big, so they take sandpaper and they sand it down to get rid of stuff. And somebody told me a long time ago that the purpose of sandpaper is to make things smooth. The purpose of a blade is to make something smaller. Right? And those are subtly different things. So if you need to make something smaller, you should get a chisel, or you should get a knife, or you should get a saw, or
a
planer, something like that, or a real plane. You know, I had a thing just yesterday. I was working, and I was having trouble getting this one board squared on my table saw, and I was like, it's off by just a little bit, and I broke out the hand plane. And I hadn't used a hand plane in a long time, but I got the board steady, locked it down to the tabletop, and within about, I bet it wasn't 45 seconds. That thing was smooth as a really smooth thing, and
smooth as a baby's bottom is, I think, what you're looking for.
Is that what? Yeah, smooth as a glass baby's bottom, and it was straight, and it just was perfect. I took off, I don't know, microns of that stuff at a time. It was just the way God made planes to work. So sandpaper makes things smooth. Blades remove content. What you learn, I think, when you see these woodworker guys is they practice something. I'll just call it good joinery. Right? Joinery is the way you put the stuff together. And if you pull out a dresser drawer, and the first step in good joinery is the dovetail. Right? And building dovetails are these, and they are, you can see them here. You look at like log cabins and stuff. Yep. If they're really well built, they will dovetail the gigantic beams together. And you can do great joinery when you're making little puzzle boxes for your grandkids, or when you're building a log cabin, or when you're building Notre Dame. You can do great joinery there. And beautiful joinery is great because it's very strong and it takes advantage of wood's natural expansion contraction properties. And it's just a smart thing to do, and it makes you look like a stud. It's awesome stuff. So some woods are toxic.
Okay.
Right. So did you know this walnut is a toxic wood? The trees produce this stuff called, like, in my head it's
a toxin.
It's a toxin. I think it's called jugalone or something like that. It's just some strange scientific Greek name. But what it apparently drips out of the tree, and it kills most plants that live underneath the tree, except
other walnuts.
Now, there are a couple trees that can survive that. And so if you have any walnut trees in your yard and you're having problems growing flowers underneath them, that may be why. But the other thing is that wood, then, when you work on it in the shop and you make dust, that dust is really, some people have bad allergic reactions to the wood. And you can, like, if you inhale that stuff, it can be really nasty for you and cause you, like, to die. So don't die.
Or don't inhale walnut dust.
That's on the dresser. So, and that's a big thing about woodworking, though, is dust collection. It can be so unbelievably messy, and I didn't do this in the past, but I do it now. Is I wear a mask when I'm making anything even remotely close to dust. I wear that. I used to not do that, and then at the end of an hour or a day, I'd blow my nose, and it would be just
sawdust
out of my nose, and you realize, well, that's the stuff that got trapped in my nose. I wonder what got trapped down there in my what am I breathing? Alveoli? Is that what they are?
Lungs.
Just
very broad. Lungs.
In my lungs. Okay, and that brings another thing about protection. Protect your ear, your face, and your breathing. You should protect your eyes by wearing, like, if you work with machines, even if you don't work with machines, safety glasses are really important unless you're doing something I'm trying to think of something you can do where you shouldn't wear, where it's not necessary to wear glasses. I think if you are sitting there inspecting your table while sitting at the table eating dinner, that's probably, you don't have to wear safety glasses. But I would suggest probably wearing safety glasses all the time. If you're working with paints, you can splatter that stuff. I've splattered paint in my eye. I've pulled nails out of boards and gotten them in my eye. I've I've like I've hit my eyes with absolutely everything.
So basically, you're saying it's a good thing that your eyes are still working.
Yes, it is, and so I wear my glasses all the time when I'm out there, and ear protection too. And not just like right now, you and I are wearing headphones to do this show, but I have not noise canceling headphones, but I have noise suppression headphones, which just physically block out the air, the wave, the compression wave, and you have to do that. Because machines are noisy, and if you do that a lot, like with like I have a table saw running, and then I have the dust collector running, it's just noisy.
Mm-hmm.
And the planer or any of that, those things can be really noisy. Staining and finishing your wood, really hard to do. You want to enhance the beauty, but you also want to make it tough. And I have books on staining and like varnish, shellac, polyurethane stain, oil-based stain, water-based stain. It's just there's so many ways you can go.
They all do different things. I ran into that issue while standing with the deck.
Yes.
Am I going to do oil-based? Am I going to do water-based? How much time do I have to do it? How long do I have to wait for the wood to dry out before I can stain it?
Can I wash the brushes out with soap and water? Do I have to use turpentine? There's a million ways. There's a million ways to solve that problem, and there's none of them that is the best. But generally, I think simpler is better. But it's, you know what, that can be a whole discussion. We'll talk shellac sometime. Okay. What's really hard to do. Glue things up, right? It is difficult. Glue gets everywhere and it squishes out, and you have to hurry because it sets up. And if you get it glued in the wrong spot, you're not going to be able to pull it back out.
Well, then you also have to clean it before you actually do the final set of the piece of wood on top of it.
Oh, absolutely. And then you have. So I've learned that when you glue things up, you should glue them up bigger than they are going to be, and then do the final shaping and sizing of those things. And of course, it's only taken me like 30 years to learn to do that. Cutting straight lines, hard to do. Really remarkably hard to do. Making things square is really hard to do.
Well, and get a good square, right? Like the cheap squares that you can buy at the hardware store. I learned this the other day from somebody at work. Can be off by up to 2 degrees.
Yeah, and that's considered good enough.
And 88 degrees is considered square.
But
if you're building that Christmas table, then it's not going to work.
Well, and you'll see that. In fact, even but there are tricks even if you don't have square. So if you're running on a jointer, which is a thing that makes one edge square to the other edge, and you don't have it quite square, what you do is if you're making a glue up for a tabletop, you run one board through one way and the other board through the opposite way. So then those angles, instead of adding up, cancel out. Okay, and if you do that, then I'm not advocating not squaring up your joint, but you can have joint angles that are nowhere near square, but as long as they cancel each other out, you're good to go. And that's a thing that, I first read that, I thought, oh, that's a genius move. But I'm sure somebody discovered that at first time, and they were like, well, I'll just do this, and it's easy. But that's just a little geometry. And I did take geometry in high school, even though I wasn't able to take shop. It's hard to make things the same size unless you set up your machine and do all your cuts that size before you move your machine. Yeah, and I was doing things today. I had to make 36 of these little things that were all the same, and I counted wrong. And I got to 24, and I thought I was done. And then I had to go back and do 12 more. I was like, how did I? I'll explain to you.
You were doing what, groups of 12 or groups of 6?
Well, I was doing groups of 12, and I thought I needed 8. I'm doing groups of 8, and I thought I needed 2 groups of 8. I actually needed 3 groups of 8 because I'm me, and I make these mistakes. That's what people say. What do you make in your workshop? And I say I make sawdust and mistakes. That's what I do. All right. And the other thing is woodworking can be very expensive. Wood is expensive. tools are expensive. The
The
machines,
right tools are even more expensive.
yeah, and then you can then you can get crappy squares, or you can get a really good square. Like I saw this square that I really want on sale today, and it was regular $70, and it was $50 today, and I was like, I should order. I get multiple emails every morning from all the working companies of the sale of the day. But you can't just buy every tool because
No.
it's not going to get you where you need to go. So, all right. So what does all this mean? All right. I think working with wood is really good for you, and here's why I think that. Well, I like it, but I think it's good for everybody, and because there are lots of different ways you can do it. You can carve it, you can cut it, you can build furniture, you can build houses, you can do all sorts of things. But it teaches you all sorts of things. It teaches you biology, it
Yep.
teaches you engineering, it teaches you chemistry, it teaches you design, and second most importantly, it teaches you patience. And the last thing it teaches you, which is the most important thing, is it teaches you humility. And that is
Okay.
something all of us need, okay? And it puts you in contact with nature. And remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. And that will help you keep all of that in mind. And Jesus was a carpenter. So
Joseph was
that's
too. He
right,
picked
it's
it
got to
up.
come. Well, think about that. All right. So wood is a great gift on this planet. It is the thing on this planet. And so let's use it right. Okay. So I want to encourage everybody out there to buy what I'm going to call keepsake furniture. I'm of the belief that furniture ought to be a thing that the kid looks at grandpa as, oh, when he goes, or the grandkid does, when grandpa goes, I get that cabinet that's in his in the den, or I get that table when grandma and grandpa pass away. These are
Sure.
things that you ought to look at, like they ought to be built and kept for generations. And IKEA is fine for shipping and assembly in an apartment in New York City, but it's fragile and it's not real furniture. Right? Let's be honest with it. It is IKEA is to furniture what Cheetos are to food. Right?
Hang on a minute. You consume a
Okay.
lot of Cheetos.
I know, but I'm not going to say that it's food. And I understand that there's a need for Cheetos, and there's probably a need for IKEA, but it doesn't mean I have to like it. Right? And as far as food goes, I can go without Cheetos. And I can go without IKEA. Particle board is just sawdust mixed with glue. All right. And that's what you're buying. And it's got these nice, pretty edges on it. And it's easy to put together. I got it. And it looks fairly nice. But when you start moving that stuff around, eventually it breaks. And there you go. It's a consumable.
It's a
IKEA
temporary
has,
solution to something that
yeah.
you need. Yep.
Yeah. It's like buying any other consumable, like, I don't know, soap. All right. IKEA is the soap of house goods. All right. Plant trees for the future. This is probably the last thing, and not just fast growing pines that you can harvest in 20 years and sell them to build a house. Pines great for 2x4s to frame a house, but hardwoods are where it's at. So think of giving your grandkids a present that they will use as grandparents to make things for their grandkids. All right, we're talking a 5 generational gift here. You plant something, you get to skip your own kids because that's how it always goes, right? And you give it to their kids when they're old enough to have grandkids, and then they make something for it. Here I have a cutting board that I made from the scraps of that elementary school desk I refinished.
Yep.
I had all these, all right, and these boards. This desk was at least 100 years old, and the boards on it probably came from a hardwood tree that was 200 years old. And so this cutting board we have in the kitchen now is probably 300 years old. And wow, what a great thing! All right, wood is not a
Well,
commodity.
and that goes back
It's
to a
not a
few
consumable.
episodes when we talked about Notre Dame and creating things for yourself and for others that you will not see completed.
There you go. And that's one of those things. And it kind of breaks my heart to see these big trees in these lots that people build these beautiful homes, and they cut them down and just shred them. And I think, I, dude, let's make good. I mean, I love the woods, but I also love baseball bats, and I love good furniture. And we were given these trees, and the trees are they're awesome. They just do everything for us, and that's Harry, and that's why I make things out of wood.
Excellent. Well, I learned something, and I'm
All
hoping
right.
the listeners learned something, and maybe they'll go out, next week and buy themselves a miter saw and get working.
Yes. So anything else, Harry?
No, I think that's it for me.
All right. Awesome. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. Remember, seek the good, be the good, and spread the good, and enjoy the adventure of life.